Good evening and welcome to Investigator News. And this is a World War III report with William. Uh, I'm the host, Ellie Holder, and with William is the other host. And this is a night that we bring you in-depth World War III reports and what we are seeing across the globe, not only in the United States, but in Taiwan, in China, Israel, and we go all the way around the world. Uh, there is nine. There is nine wars happening right now, and now a lot of it is being blamed on the Biden administration that they have started these wars. Uh, William, nine of them, really? That's my whole thing is have we went to Haiti? Why did we go to um, um, Sudan? Why are we in all these Ukraine and many fashions, Syria, many countries of war that we have inserted
Well,
ourselves into?
some of the reasons is we get talked into doing it for the United Nations, like Haiti. You have to have a military that has the capacity to be an expeditionary, and one of the few in the world is the United States. There's France, there's England, China, Russia. So who are you going to send?
Yeah. hmm and then we seen, see, this is the one that kind of got me was more than a decade after Obama administration. Now we seen the Affordable Care Act being covered by covered for illegal aliens, and I think this is something that get very quiet, and I'll get into it with the uh, Congressional Pig Report. And I figured me and William in between the this pig report and and the draft, there's going to be a lot talked about even in our chat room tonight. And more than a decade after Obama administration promised that Affordable Care Act would not cover illegal aliens, now Joe Biden has went in and went above Obama to expanding the program to do exactly that. He announced earlier this month he plans to expand Medicare and Obamacare to um, childhood arrivals under DACA recipients, making roughly 700,000 illegal aliens eligible for the government funded health care. And they're going to put it under Medicare. And they keep pointing fingers. Now, I'm not going to say the GOP is above or they're wrong, because even the GOP has got to do something with the Medicare program. And, I want to get to the news part and then we'll get into World War III in case you're wondering. So, what we're looking at is they want to cover the illegal aliens. Why? And when they are asked for the data, there's no data there. They're just saying that they're going to cover them. And now that we're looking at 10 days away, they were going to go under um, uh, I guess it's called 8 bill, and that would have been fine. But now they're sending uh, um, a massive amount of or 1,500 troops to the border to for transportation and paperwork. So all of this basically, and then covering a lot of the illegals that come into our country under the Obama Act, a medical plan, and this is even stretches into the Biden plan. It was never funded under Trump. But it was under Obama, it was under Bush and Clinton. So, it's a two-way street. A lot of the Democrats want it, a lot of the Republicans want it, and we're going to bring these people into the country under sanctuary. And as far as I know, and I know you guys are hearing this on the news, they're bringing them in, and um, Biden wants to be able to send them where they want. Now, it can only be sanctuary cities. The only one that has sanctuary cities is Democrat run states. So, and then they've been sneaking them in the middle of the night because I've seen them here. I even gotten off planes where there's two or three dozen sitting there with backpacks waiting for the pickup. And I asked them, and they no English, no English, no speak English, and they won't talk to me. Um, but the few that I've been able to get little broken English from was uh, Obama Biden sent us here, and they're going to move us to cities we want, and then no speak English, um, and they're with backpacks, and so we know they're flying them through the middle of the night now, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I want to get to this pig report. And what is a pig report? It's waste spending, and they have um, um, you know, uh, when we had looked at what they're claiming right now, they say we don't have the money. This country will shut down if we don't pass this. Well, how much of it can we really do without? How about the most outrageous is projects of $67 million of taxpayer money will go to museums. They can't do without this money. Um, they have put and funded 200 million for theaters. Already, the NEA, National Endowment of the Arts, they have already spent $11 million. What about um, bike lanes and bike passes, bike um, places where you could bike, or even um, uh, hiking paths? They have spent 200 million on that too. 11 million on just pedestrian paths and bike uh, lanes. And then now $9 million for broadband expansion. 15 agencies. Can you believe that all of them are talking about trying to save money and cut spending? Well, it just sounds like no, they're not. Now, they say there's Oinker Awards. Now, the Whole Hog Award is Senator Shelby and this is a Republican, for 18 earmarks. Get this, 666 for his numbers, the highest amount received, and 23% more than any legislature in second place. This, you know, the only the thing is you can't. Um, what about taking taxpayers for a ride to 9 members of Congress who received um, $11 million in funding for bike and pedestrian path just on their own states? That's above and beyond what I just told you about. How about 107 million for money awarded to senators for being great senators? Who were they? Blumenthal, Democrat; Ed Markey, Democrat; Chris Murphy, Democrat; Elizabeth Warren, Stephen Lynch, and all of this comes out to $107 million because they were the best. The Atlantic Fleece report to Republican Wilson for $4 million for a Bohemian Museum and Arts in the Bahamas. The singing of a sore note taxpayers went to Mark Pocan, for 250,000 for the restoration of the Driver Opera House. What about leaving the barn door open? Patrick Leahy, 500,000 for the preservation of the historic farm, barn, and Shelburne farms. But at the same time, he has voted to shut down any backyard farming. Um, there's just it goes on and on. This is what's in the bill, folks. This is what is in the bill at arts, entertainment, uh, Green New Deal. They want 50 trillion. So by the time they get done, it is even at a low cost, it would be $55 trillion that we would come up with for all of these programs. Why are we paying Coons or Durham or even Mitch McConnell to get raises? And that's a lot of this. A lot of this bill that they want to put forward is raises for Senate and Congress. And they have to have it or this country will shut down. Um, Boy, William, what do you think?
Well, it seems like we keep going through this, doesn't it?
Yeah,
This is
every year.
a repeating theme over the last 20 years.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm going to say even more because even the Republicans are guilty of this. When they're in office, they pass frivolous bills that help them out and their people. When are we going to quit adding to the budget of uh, paying for the arts? And, the infrastructure bill that they put in place is a joke because it never happened. We never fixed anything.
My question is are those places of the arts sending money in for political campaigns?
Yeah. And, they are. And, even what they're putting before the House today and, well, this week is insider trading that Pelosi put into place. And if we cut that out and we start cutting all these budgets, and what was it I heard a Democrat say? Oh, well, uh, the Democrats are wanting to cut Medicare and military spending and the police force. Well, when I went and looked at it, and folks, I want to be able to let you guys read it for yourself. Um, it's all there in black and white what they want to do, and why would they um, say such a thing um, if there's proof of it out there? But this administration is just um, it's been not so transparency, not so democracy, and more of a dictatorship. And well, they've presented that this is a socialism type uh, administration, and then when you call them out on it, it's social programs, but it is a socialist program, and that we're adopting. And how many illegals are really gonna want to go for that when that's what they're fleeing? Uh, so
So,
now, go ahead.
I, for me, what they're doing is they're propping up a narrative that doesn't really exist. And they're doing everything they can to maintain that narrative. And no matter what reality is, that's not what they're interested in. They're interested in the fiction of whatever it is that they believe.
Hmm. And I really don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on that because so many news medias are on this. And but what I really want to move into is I mentioned this last night, William, where the Pacific now is crowded with warships as U.S., Chinese, and Russian forces appear. Now, they don't care about China and China blocking the strait because they know once they play chicken, then they move. Now their biggest fear is Russia. Now Russia is there. Now, and I know I mentioned this to you on the phone that wait a minute, now Russia was in Alaska, they were in Hawaii, they have been there all along. So to me, it's a lot of really bad propaganda. They're saying, oh, Russia's in the Pacific. Well, where were they, what, 6 months ago, William? Three, six
Well,
months
they're
ago?
in the Pacific Fleet. Where do you expect them to be? The Pacific.
Yeah. And they're making this sound like this is something that's recently happened when on the show we have already said they were there. They were around because remember, oh heck, right about the time we started doing World War III reports, we were talking Russia wanted to take Alaska, like China's taking Taiwan, that it was theirs to begin with. And now all of a sudden the mainstream media is saying, whoa, wait a minute, now Russia is in the Pacific. And then the other thing, William, is they're saying it's really, really crowded with all of these exercises. And isn't that what happens before war? We
Every
pull.
year we have a Pacific exercise, both in the Western Pacific or Southwestern Pacific, which is what we call South China Sea, and the Pacific generally. So there's two major exercises that go on every year.
Yeah. And to me, I mean, how many times week after week we said everybody's flexing muscles. And so for Russia to be over there, or what if we hear next week Iran is over there? Is that unusual now that we know that uh, the U.S. and or no, let's go back to BRICS, where I think I have it right. The Red Pack. There you go. Um, China, Russia, Iran, and some of these other smaller third world countries have gotten together. Now, so would it be odd to see Iran over in the Pacific? Now, to me and William, it wouldn't be because that's part of.
Well, Iran, I don't think we're going to see Iran over there.
But would it be odd?
And well, you typically don't see Iran out beyond the Straits of Hormuz.
Right.
And sometimes out in front of Pakistan, but that's about as far as they venture.
Right. But would it be odd if they're with them and they're forming this red pack? Would it be odd?
No, not if they're.
I'm not saying for them to be in the Pacific.
They'll sortie together.
What if they're over just south of Yemen or Oman? See, it wouldn't be odd for them to be there.
Oh no, it wouldn't be at all.
See, but they could have they could have ships and not only ships but missiles that could hit Taiwan or any ship out in the Pacific. This isn't odd, and see, everybody gets so excited about this. So when they hear Russia, oh no, then it must mean we're on the verge of war. No, now if China said what 2027, we're and even Wu, the foreign minister for Taiwan, he said he thinks it might be by 2025. Nobody really knows. Go ahead.
The thing is if they're out in international waters, they're not bothering anybody. They have as much right to be in international waters as we do.
That's right. Yeah.
So
Uh,
if they're doing exercises out in international waters, it just means they're doing exercises out in international waters. It doesn't mean they're threatening the United States. It doesn't mean they're threatening any order. It just means they're engaged in an exercise in international waters. The problem comes is when they try to do exercises in the middle of major shipping traffic with oil tankers and container ships and stuff like that. You don't do that. You do it out in open waters so you can maneuver and do your thing without having to endanger other folks. And I haven't heard of them going out into international waters and endangering anybody.
yeah. Yeah. And
Now,
then,
there are military presence while they're there, but so are we.
yeah. Yeah. And so even if we have Russia out there or Iran or even North Korea, what if North Korea uh, throws out their fleet? As long as, like you said, under international waters, there's no threat. But
We have
when
191 different countries that have rights to go out into international waters.
mhm,
Every country in the world has a right to sail in international waters.
right,
And in fact, guaranteed by the United States.
yeah, and the same way with our air because we had this recent balloon that went over Hawaii into Mexico. Um, uh, do we so international even airspace as long as and they said no, this wasn't China this time. Well, I just tend not to believe it because China has been over the last few, and I can't see. But
Well,
now
when the balloon flew over China,
I did
when the
report
balloon
though.
flew over Hawaii, we had the right to shoot it down as long as it was over Hawaii airspace.
Right now, I did
But once it
hear.
left that and it's in Mexican airspace, then only the Mexican people have the right to shoot it down.
Right. Now, see, the whole thing is we found out. I even reported on this last week, or I think last week, that even North Korea, his sister, was putting out balloons themselves. So it's not just China. It could be North Korea. It could be we don't know. But do we let them float or do we take them down? And see, we found out with the ones that came over us all the way to the East Coast, we should have taken them down. So, but should we bother if it's over Mexico right now?
It's not our airspace. We don't
Right,
have any say in it.
right. But now if it was in Hawaii, and for what are they looking at in Hawaii? What's the base there, William?
So the Marines have a base at Kaneohe on Oahu. Hickam Field, or Hickam Air Force Base, is on Oahu next to Honolulu. There's also Pearl Harbor, which is major naval installation there. So we've got three Marines, the Navy, and the Air Force there, and then we've got a small island there we use as a bombing range, just off of the south tip of Lanai. So all of that's going on there, and we've got installations like that are not just they're military, but they're federal installations like the Keck observatories up on Mauna Kea. Um, so they could be looking at any of that.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
we have those groups in Hawaii.
yeah, and
Plus the Coast Guard.
well, see, my whole thing is I've looked at what Kim Jong Un and his sister has said that the big thing is Hawaii, is where they know they could reach, and so uh, I mean Hawaii isn't really a big part of uh, not the biggest part of the United States, but to them and their minds, they would think if we do Hawaii, then we successfully did something. I gotta, you just gotta wonder what Kim Jong Un, because they've been saying Hawaii all this time. It's not like they're saying we're going to go to Taiwan or we're going to do Japan, but it's death to America and Hawaii. Even his sister has mentioned this. They could reach Hawaii. And to
Well,
me,
after the first big scare that they had with an incoming ballistic missile warning that was erroneous, I don't think that any ballistic missiles can make it into Hawaii right now.
yeah, well, I don't
Even
know.
if they want to, they'll be shot down.
Yeah, well, the second they go up, I mean, because we're no different from Israel, where once they're launched, we're gonna knock them out. But see, in their minds, I don't think they realize that. I don't know. I I'm not in their minds, and I don't have the intel they do, but they should have that. No matter what they shoot, it's going to be taken out, right?
Well, we're going to at least try to take it out, and if we're successful in taking it out, did they really shoot it? I mean, see, this whole thing goes around in circles. Is if you're not hit, how can you claim you were attacked?
Right.
And if you don't have, and if you shoot down a missile coming into Hawaii, what's the chances of the debris landing on land?
Yeah.
So you can take a look at it. Not too great. So it's almost a circular reasoning orbit of what ifs.
And are they doing it for themselves? Or are they doing it for China?
I think Sis is just piping up. I think she knows that even if she launched one and wasted the money to put a warhead on it, which is very expensive to one of these countries, those warheads are their biggest dollar input of everything they have. Are they going to try to waste it on a pot shot?
I don't think they would. But we don't know their mindset. Are
the
they doing it?
chances of it actually hitting Hawaii and doing something to Hawaii is remote. And does it justify putting it up there? I don't know. I can't put myself in her mind.
Yeah, me either. Because we don't know her enough.
It's our alley.
Yeah, we don't know enough about her. I mean, we know what Kim Jong Un and his dad, and we know the agenda. But now she's jumped in and shook everything up. So we don't know, is she doing this for North Korea, or is she doing this for China? And is she helping China with the war? And there's just no data out there to say if she's
Chances are she's only going to do something if it helps China, if it helps her at home, and if it attacks the United States all at the same time, and they think that they can withstand an attack back from the United States. Unless those three things can occur, I don't think she seems to be a pretty good student. I don't think she's going to waste a warhead.
Yeah. And then, if we now Iran, they seized a tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. Uh, how many times they keep doing this? Shouldn't we, William? When I seen this story, I thought they do this all the time. And Iran's Revolutionary Guard, they seize these oil tankers constantly.
The problem for Iran is they try to ship oil out too, and there's another tanker that has their fuel on it can be grabbed, and then it ends up being like the trading spies type thing, except for it becomes trading tankers. This is, in a way, it's a problem, but in another way, it's not that big a problem because Iranian tankers could be seized just as easily outside of the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, And it just seems really weird because I remember even 4 or 5, well, I'm going to say during the Obama administration when Iran was seizing these oil tankers. And sometimes they blow them up, sometimes they wouldn't. And so,
Remember just a few months ago, we seized, well, we boarded, I believe it was a Pakistani or something like that, a heavy fishing trawler full of weapons,
uh-huh,
small weapons, and seized the small weapons that were from Iran. So this is a give and take thing that goes on.
yeah. And dude, what gets me is the United States never does anything. They just kind of turn their backs on it and hoping Israel will take care of the Iran problem. And as the years have went by, that's what I'm seeing is uh, we as the United States will go over and will. I mean, even the Republicans are it's the same thing. They'll go over and they'll humor them, and then they leave, and then all of a sudden it's up to Israel to. Keep an eye on what Iran's doing, and if they do anything wrong, then they step in, and then the United States says, "Well, yeah, you took care of it." Um, See, this is, I think, going to be a problem because now with this everything going on in Syria, Israel saying, "Where are you?" And of course, they're saying your own bases are being attacked. Why aren't you here? And I believe it's just a lack of experience with foreign affairs with this administration. They just need better foreign affairs people that can go. I mean, you can't always get the perfect foreign affairs. Even under Bush and Reagan, our foreign affairs were more about peace than making sure they didn't have things they shouldn't have. It was like, oh, we
So
believe you.
Blinken and Sullivan have an innate belief that you can talk people down out of anything. You can talk your way out of anything. And Reagan knew that the only way you have a bully pulpit, a bully voice, is to become a bully. Is you had to have the weapons to back it up. And Democratic administrations have always been this way. Johnson was this way. Carter was this way. The one administration that wasn't this way was the Clintons, but I don't think that was so much because of the Clintons. It was more because Madeleine Albright was at state, and she was afraid of a flame up into another world war in Europe. But beyond that, this is the way democratic administrations react. They're more afraid of engagement than they are of pushing back. They're terrified of pushing back and having it be their fault. When you push back, you run the risk of war. But that's how we brought our POWs home from Vietnam, was through what was it, Linebacker 1, Linebacker 2, and Rolling Thunder was what brought our POWs home. So that's big firepower. Big firepower is what bullies understand. Unless you have it or are willing to use it, they're going to take advantage of you every which way that they can.
Mm-hmm. No, your enemy does, usually. They find your weakness.
Well, even your friends do. Even your friends do.
Your frenemies, yeah. Your frenemies do.
Well, no. Our NATO partners aren't our enemies. They're our friends, but they're there to to add as much benefit to their country as they can. That's their responsibility. And if the United States creates a vacuum for which they can profit from, it's their responsibility to bring that money, home to their countries.
Yeah. And, a
It's
lot
the
of
same
the,
responsibility our president has towards us.
and the thing is the Republicans have always been accused of being the military complex and that they want this war and it creates money for the military complex. And I think it does to the point, but then now we're weirdly enough, since 2000, I'm going to say 10 or 11, it started being equal sides. It's not just the Republicans now; it's the Democrats, and it's like they if the Democrats want war, the Republicans don't. If the Republicans want war, the Democrats won't. It's almost like, to me, it's like staged, William, and I've noticed this since uh, when we started looking at Afghanistan and Syria. It just seems so fake in Syria.
It usually doesn't happen until there's a failure. So Jimmy Carter had the failure of Desert, I think it was Desert Eagle or something like that, where we tried to go get the Iran hostages and we lost the KC-135 and the two big helicopters with it burned in the desert. And when we have a major failure like that, then the Democrats want to build back up. Now we look at Ukraine, they're sending all these arms, then they want to build back up. But otherwise, they want to get rid of the military.
Yeah. And then all these helicopter crashes all of a sudden. They're doing these exercises and they're crashing into each other. Even during the day, you would think they would see each other. To me, there's something up. Either we're being hacked, or because these are even the men that have survived, or those that are part of the program, said this never should have happened. And there's going to be an investigation, but they probably won't let the American people know. And to me, there's
So
something
this,
odd.
this problem's a training problem. This problem's a training problem. If you got too many pilots going out, too few coming in, or the ones that are coming in are they're trying to train them too fast. At the same time, they have a higher ops tempo, like they're going to have for NATO right now, and getting ready for China. Yeah, we're going to have some accidents. It means that we have to really drill down on them that they cannot do operations until they're fully trained. You can't skip operation. You can't skip training to maintain operations. And, this administration is not known for being particularly steadfast in some things.
And back when they had Black Hawk Down, after that, they really scrutinized of anything with the military having to do with these black helicopters, and it got really quiet. But then now, in the last year, we're seeing a lot of accidents once again. And I'm not saying that Black Hawk Down was an accident. I'm just saying that something's up again, to where they shouldn't be having these so many. It's like the train
Well,
derailments.
we're using the hell out of the equipment, and we're not demanding absolute compliance to the technical orders.
Yeah.
It's a problem of leadership. It's not a problem of helicopters.
Right.
It's not a problem of parts. It's not a problem of the guys that are repairing the helicopters. It's a problem of leadership.
Yeah, and then who do we got? I mean, I want Schwarzkopf back for general, but we got Millie and Lloyd, and to me they just seemed not focused on our wars, but focused on political problems of the United States. And William, I've looked back at so many generals, and I'm saying, what are they thinking? Most of the time, the generals are all about we're going to do this plan, this plan, this plan for, we have this war and the war over here, and they should be concentrating on China, and they're like, transgender? Why? I
They're
mean,
they're too busy focusing on politics.
yes,
Here's another problem we're having. The generals we had going into Desert Storm and even into when we went into Iraq and even started into Afghanistan, these were generals that had saw the mistakes made in Vietnam firsthand.
yeah,
Those guys aren't there anymore. They retired.
yeah, and we don't have the generals we used to have.
Look at the doctrines created by those guys that came out of those land wars and take them to heart. We're gonna have to relearn those lessons.
Yeah. And and then now we're sending another 300 million in military aid to Ukraine. And shouldn't we be constant? And see, I think a lot of this is where I don't care which party you're with, is why are we doing that when we need to focus on China? And I think even the American voters are switching from, and this is a whole, whether which party you're with, is okay, we sent a lot to Ukraine. Now we're going to send them more money when we have got China on our doorstep saying, are you ready to go to war? And we're like, well, hold off. We're still doing Ukraine. And, William, that's what really bugs me is we should be Ukraine is just such a little thing. Now, China, this could be World War III with every country across the globe in on. And I think they just need to be, their perspective of where they want to put their focus is just so wrong.
So, civilian leadership has a long lag time to catch up with reality on the ground, especially when it comes to military matters. And they'll get there quicker if they've recently been involved in a major conflict. But the farther from the major conflict you get, the less they want to believe the indicators that present themselves. They start to believe peace is inevitable and not something earned. And we go through this evolution every 40 to 80 years, and it's just it's a part of human nature. But in the military, we recognize that our civilians are our leadership, and we act based on their direction.
Yeah.
Because we don't want military that goes and does its own thing.
Yeah.
So we're very, very cognizant of that. But at the same time, we get very frustrated in the military when we bring our concerns to Congress and they roll their eyes because they think they know something we don't.
Yeah.
It's always been a frustration that way. It's always going to be that way. So in a way, this is standard operating procedure. But while we're going through this evolution of this is what the military sees and this is what Congress finally sees, that 2-year lag or so, it's just frustrating. It's like, trying to talk to the dead. They just don't hear. They can't hear. They're deaf, dumb, and blind until all of a sudden it's an, oh my God. Then they're willing to throw so much money at it that they cause a problem with too much money coming at it. It's always, so the way America acts is it's always almost slow to react, but when when it reacts, it overreacts.
Yeah, even the media, because the media is even overreacting to um, Putin assassination. It's like, oh, Putin. Well, Trump had so many assassination attempts. That's just par for the course when you're a world leader.
So we don't know who sent those missiles. I watched
Yeah,
those missiles, and they were firecrackers with what was left of their fuel cell.
yeah, but
They
yeah,
weren't they weren't serious weapons, okay? First of all. So somebody was trying to make a statement of some type, but not a lethal statement. If it had been NATO sending a missile into the Kremlin would have been leveled,
yeah,
because we're not going
yeah,
to send anything into the Kremlin unless we really mean business, because they have nuclear weapons. We're going to create an oh my God situation. That
yeah,
was not an oh my God
yeah.
situation.
Well,
That
the
was just
media is
an
because
irritation.
the
That's just an irritation.
Putin is just kind of chuckling it off, and the United States saying, "Oops, we if it was the United States, oops, we missed." But the media is like, "Ooh, Putin, so many assassination attempts, and we almost got him." And but people don't realize that anytime we've been to war, even so many assassination attempts on Saddam Hussein. Over him with the baby food factories. And not only that, but every time, even Kim Jong Un has said he's had over 200 assassination attempts. I don't know how true it is. I mean, I tend not to believe that many, but if you're a world leader and hated, you're going to get these attempts. Uh, even there
If
was
you're
a
not getting an attempt every couple of weeks, you're not a leader.
that's it.
Seriously.
Yeah. And so we're getting close on the hour, and I wanted to get into this draft thing, William, because I really think the woke generation is really going to be surprised. And what I mean by that is they're talking we are lacking about 60,000 military men or women. Um, and as we go into China, they are saying there's a good possibility the draft will be brought back in. Now, it's going to happen, but what they are doing now is they're taking it so women won't have to be a part of the Marines or the Army. They want to put them in easier military systems that the women won't have to be on the front lines. Now, William, I've mentioned this to you on the phone. Now, these transgenders. Now, if it is a woman to become a man, then more than likely this man will be put on the front lines. Now, how is he or she going to respond to this? Now, when I looked at the polls today, 97% of uh, 25-year-olds, this is men and women, to 40-year-olds, are saying they refuse to uh, fight. So no matter if they're drafted, they're saying we're not going to go. Now Canada isn't going to let them go. So where do they go? If they go to Canada, they're going to send them back to us. So now my thing is, I think I mentioned this on the show the other night, is when I brought this up to my grandson, he went, "Oh no," and there was fear. So how is the woke system going to respond to um, having a draft? Are they going to freak out? Now, I even told William this earlier. When I thought about all the aspects and every direction on it, I think it's an anti-war protest. But at the same time, if you're a woman, you're going to be drafted. If you're a man, you're going to be drafted. And I really think this is going to wake up the woke system. Do they really want to be a man? Do they really want to be a
So,
man? Go ahead, William.
so Congress has said that they don't have a problem with drafting men, but they do
Right.
have a problem with their daughters being drafted. The problem
Hmm.
is as soon as men are drafted, somebody's going to file a lawsuit into Supreme Court, and the
Hmm.
Supreme Court's not going to be able to protect women.
No.
So
Yeah.
Now, the Congress didn't intend necessarily, but equal rights equal responsibility. Then they're going to say, here's the next thing. Well, I have a child, I can't go. A lot of people in the military have children, they have to go.
Yes.
Single women in the military, they still have to go. They just have to make arrangements.
Right.
Okay.
And the thing is now when I heard, oh well, what if they got mental issues? Well, now what we have found out, I don't know, with with people going into the military, they look at it, and if they're too mental, they do let them out, or if they don't meet the weight requirements. There's so many, and William probably tell you more about when you go into basic training. There's so many requirements, and if they're going to kick them out, they're going to kick them out. Now, are they going to be mad they were drafted, and then or is the woke going to be mad because they were kicked out? You know, it's going to be no easy. It's not a one-way street with the woke, but I really think this is going to wake them up, and they're going to be looking at. Okay, I was a female, now I'm a male, and this is how I feel. This is my own opinion, and they're going to like, I don't want to. I don't want to go to war. I'm a woman. I'm a woman. So they're going to become a woman again after they threw a fit to become a male. Now they're a male, and because they don't want to fight in the war, are they going to awaken and say I'm a female? This is something that we are really going. I think we're going to have a time with, and the reason why I bring up the draft is because Biden brought this up at least a year ago, and now it's being rumored and whispered about that there will be a draft in 2025 to make the Republicans look bad. So go ahead, William.
So as far as people that come in during the draft, you have to keep in mind that here's the first thing we do to them is we break them down. Is we tear down whatever they believed before they came in the military. Then we reprogram them, and we put them through training. So it's not going to really matter that much what the woke think now, because as soon as we get them through the first 3 weeks of basic training, they're not going to think that anymore anyway. Because that won't be their world reality anymore.
Yeah, because if you said they're breaking them down, if they already have mental issues, they're not going to make it. You know, when they go out and tell them you can't do this, you can't do that, you're going to be running, you're going to be doing so many push-ups.
Typically, is when we break them down, if they have mental issues, they usually try to kill themselves,
or they shuffle them out,
and then they put them out on they give them a general discharge.
Yeah. And you know what is so sad though, is when I looked into China, and the same 25 to 40-year-olds that we might have these issues with over there in China, granted they're forced to work. They're if not, you know, you're going to be put in a prison. They have grown their infrastructure so big, and they say the best Chinese workers are 25 to 40. Now, if you look over here in the United States, 25 to 40, they're still living at mama's house. They're demanding we are going to be a BLM, or we're anti-abortion. It's that woke. What have we done with our infrastructure in the last 20 years? China has built theirs up. It's beautiful. And what do we have? We have broken down systems because we have got a generation that we have made into the woke to demand, and I'm going to sit down, I'm going to scream until I get my way. You don't see that in China. But they'll be killed if they do that in China.
That paid for that new infrastructure in China instead of having it done here. So that was, first of all, that was money given away.
Yeah, I mean, granted, like I said, it's if they don't work, they're going to put them in with the Uyghurs at the education camp.
once there's a war like World War II, which is what we're looking at, then all that money does go towards our infrastructure. So it's just a matter of having a big enough contest outside the United States that they have to.
We're seeing we're frivolously wasting. We're frivolously wasting. I mean, for the last 20 years, the infrastructure is went towards programs. You know, like let's look at the root cause and see that's where we have had problems.
But it'll have to go towards
until Trump
and bridges and highways and water filtration and stuff like that, so that we'll be able to outproduce our enemy.
Yeah. And so this is going to be.
Everybody keeps having this thing in mind that our senators and congressmen are looking out for our own best interests. No. Our senators and congressmen are looking out for the best interests of the people who send them to Congress and who pay for their campaigns.
Well, not even really, because they're coming up with their own opinions. It depends on, are they a lobbyist? And if they're a lobbyist, they're only going to do what these companies want them to do. And see, that's where they're. Go ahead.
Not until the corporations and lobbyists decide that, wow, they're under threat, and now they want the people of the United States to come and fight to get them out of the threat. Do they take care of these things? This is typical.
Yeah.
So once they need the people of the United States to do the bleeding for them, you know, Joe Sixpack, then all of a sudden they think about stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be good then.
Yeah.
But until then, they don't want to pay for a single dime, because all they want to do is export costs and import money.
Yeah.
All right. They don't want to have to take care of the small details.
Mm-hmm.
They run on a quarterly earnings report.
Yeah.
So they're all about income. They're not about paying for sewers and bridges and stuff like that.
Right.
So until they get their minds focused, which is what a major conflict does, then everybody's interest then somehow aligns.
Yeah. And you know, what gets me on all of this is it's not, I don't want it to bash just our country. And I'm not going to bash other countries. But when they looked at globally of our allies, of how many of these kids are willing to fight for their and to protect their own country, it was about 20%. I mean, this is a horrible percentage of what has happened to our countries. And everybody is pointing towards China, because China has infiltrated our kids through TikTok, through the colleges, everywhere, to make our kids either be stuck on computers, stuck on the gaming, stuck on the phones, stuck on that they're not good enough. And so now look at what we got, not just here, but the UK, even in Europe. And, you know, they are surpassing us, them, as far as China, Russia, and even Iran and Israel, that they have got their young that's willing to fight for their country. Us, we have got an administration that is telling them, throw a fit. You sit down, you cry, you stomp your feet until you get what you want. And this is very scary, because now they're saying a draft maybe in 2025. And if we went to war, it would be an automatic draft. And all I can see, William, is like I said earlier, I see anti-war protest. And granted, they may be the ones that's been set for the draft, but they're going to be out there holding their sign saying, we're not going to go. We're not going to fight.
It doesn't really matter if they say they're not going to go, because two sergeants will show up in their bedroom with a bus out front. They'll be going.
And this
And,
is so sad.
4 sergeants and a buck can collect an awful lot of people in one night.
Yeah,
You would be absolutely surprised. The other part is even during World War II, the United States at its height only had 4% of its population involved in war.
yeah. How many do we need?
England had the highest population of the Allies, and they were at 10%. So only a small fraction of a nation ever goes to war. The rest are involved in war support activities.
Mm-hmm.
Down the line, like being a waitress in a place that takes care of lunches for people who who work at the military base, during lunch hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of breaks down. Or people who make parts for the military base that take lunch hour. Or, it cascades down that way. Eventually, the entire population's involved, but it doesn't seem like it. So the United States has 10% of its population that's willing, to do their
well,
service.
we're down 60,000 military members. That's what concerns me, is we're down 60,000. And they said just for this year, last year was the same amount. And they're not getting but trickles. And they don't know what they're going to do besides if either to enforce the draft, or if we go to war with China. Even Biden said under Ukraine, we might have to start the draft. But now it's almost inevitable that if we go to war with China, the draft is going to be put in place. And we have.
Well, if they're going to do it, they need to do it sooner than later, because wars are fought by people who have been in the military for more than 2 years, typically.
Yeah. And don't wait.
People who are in leadership that have been in the military less than 2 years tend to walk into combat zones and are slaughtered.
Yeah. And, when I had to look at my grandson, and, I looked at, okay, 20, let's go with 2026. And then I thought, okay, my grandson will be 19. And I thought, oh my God, he could be drafted. And when I brought it up to him, the fear in his face. What? So what am I going to do? I said, you're going to go to war. No, he said, no, I'm not going to go. I said, you have to. And he said, no. And so think about this. So think of our grandkids, our kids. This isn't the United States, because we have so many that watch us in other countries. Now, look at that. Look at your kids that are 15, 16 years old, that they're just kids, and think in 2 to 3 years from now, they might be fighting in a war against China. If that don't put the fear in these kids, it put the fear in me, thinking I got a grandson that could go. And, and that we don't think about this. We didn't think about it during Vietnam. Like, my brother was drafted, and it broke our hearts. It was like, no, he can't go, but he had to. And he was luckily enough that he didn't have to go on the front lines or fight. But how many of the sons that they feel the same way we do right now, of, let's say, and our kids are a junior in high school, and think about in 2 years, they could have to go to the draft, and, college might not save them. But now, William, you said something earlier on the phone that we could, like I told my grandson, if you could look into the branch you want to be into, you look at a job opportunity you want, you might not have to go to the front lines. But you know what? That doesn't guarantee. The military lies. They may promise you a lot, say, oh, no, you're not going to go to the front lines. And a month down the road, they're on the front lines. They're fighting our enemies. Go ahead, William.
So Russia had their draft here, 6 months ago. They took people who had already been in the military. That was their first choice. The second choice were young men that were in the universities.
Mm-hmm.
During Vietnam, we took high school dropouts. We took lower IQ folks. It doesn't mean we'll do it this time, because the equipment now is so much more sophisticated than it was then.
Mm-hmm.
So you being in college may actually be the ticket into the military, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
They may give you an opportunity to pay off your student loans, but that's a rough way to pay them off.
But the whole thing is scary, because if we got parents out there tonight, like me, I'm not a parent, I'm a grandparent. And when I mentioned this to my daughter, she teared up. She said, "Oh no, how could this be?" And I said, "Because this is war." She said, "Well, how do we stop China? We go to war." I said, "Not necessarily." And she says, "But how do I keep my son from having to do the draft?" Folks, and I think Mary said, "This is new. It makes me nervous." I hope that's what she was talking about.
It's new to a lot of people now. It's not new to the people.
Not our generation, or not my parents, or even my older siblings, because they've seen this before. But now this is new.
This is why I've always been telling you guys, the wolf is always at the door. What we do now, whether we prepare, don't prepare, whatnot, affects you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't avoid that cause and effect.
Now they've always had I think that it's been active. I think most kids have to file for the draft. I'm not real sure how it works. I haven't looked into the laws.
18, between 18 and 25, they have to register.
So, but that doesn't mean they're going to be. It's not an active draft. And see, this is where I don't want to freak a lot of parents out right now, or grandparents. They'll go and they'll register. It doesn't mean nothing right now. It's when they activate, and when they say, we are 60, 80,000 military members short, we're pulling you in. And see, that's what happened during Vietnam, is we were short. So they had to, under a wartime, they had to bring them in. Folks, if you, no matter where you are in the globe, if you're in Australia, you're in the UK, anywhere, this could happen in your country. Because when we go against China and you're an ally, you're looking at your 17, it could be 16, it could be 18, it could be 20. It depends on your own laws. There is a good possibility your kid is going to be taken into the draft, and we're going to be looking at another Vietnam. But I don't say it's going to last that long, nor am I saying it's going to happen. But if we happen to go to war with World War III, more than likely they're going to kick it up. They're going to amp it up, and we're going to go into the draft like we did in the 60s and 70s. And prepare your kids. Let them, tell them which branch of the military do you want. Find something that you don't have to go to the front lines. And I don't mean to steer you away, or your kids might want to be on the front lines of fighting, but at least talk. It's time to talk to them about it.
Welding, get them into mechanics, get them a pilot's license. If you don't want your kids on the front line, that's the way, is to for the kids to already have a skill that meets the military's needs someplace else.
Mm-hmm. Well, William, do you want to add anything for tonight on any of our topics?
I'm sad this is a state of affairs. I'm sad that the people of the United States have to go back through this learning process.
Mm-hmm.
Votes count.
Yeah.
how we're prepared for the next threat counts. And even though it doesn't affect you, it may affect your offspring or their offspring.
Mm-hmm.
So don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
Just because things are the way they are right now doesn't mean that they're going to stay that way.
Bingo. Things can change.
The wolf is always at the door.
Mm-hmm. And me, everything with tonight is we have got to make smart decisions on who we vote for. It's got, I keep telling everybody it goes from our city officials all the way to the state, all the way to our government. And the only way to stop a lot of this from happening is on our vote. And we have got to stand up for our rights. Um, and this is just to the point where I think it has everybody on edge. And until we get a really a good administration in where it supports the people, I think any American person that whether it's Democrat or Republican is going to be on edge until they feel security. Um, so.
If we have a strong administration, we won't have a low
Right.
enlistment rate.
That's right.
It's always been that way.
Yeah, that's true.
So if we have a Reagan, you'll have people rushing for the gates to get in the military. If you have a Trump, you'll have people rushing to the gates to get in the military. Even a dad Bush, they had people running to the gates to get in the military.
Mm-hmm.
But are you going to are you willing to die for this administration or, say, the Obama administration?
Any administration.
How do you think that affects your motivation? You don't mind going to war if you're going to have what you need to fight the war.
If it's worth it, yeah.
Is when you go to war and all you got is the skin on your back, that's a problem. But there's always been young men willing to go in the military. They're just not willing to waste their lives.
That's right. So, okay, William. Well, that looks like it's it for this Wednesday. And boy, it went quick. And everybody share and subscribe. Share this show because you need to let your families and friends know that, if we go to war with China or even into a bigger war, we got to look at our kids and we need to pre-warn our kids. Our families, my family did it growing up, but it's not on the agenda right now for what a family talks to their kids about. How many times have we sat at the dinner table and they've been into their phones? Or do we even sit at the dinner table anymore? Or is everybody doing their own thing? And after dinner, everybody kind of goes off to their own space. Nobody's talking, but they're sure looking at their phones and they're scrolling. And I think it's time to wake these kids up, even the woke, and wake them up and say, you know what, wrong direction. Because if this is what you want and you're going to push us to, I don't think they're going to like what the situation that they're going to end up in. So, all right, William, great host. You're the host with the most, or both of us are. Wednesday World War III report is great. It's a way for people to understand what's going on in their military. So, all right, William, next week for you, and heck, you got quite a few days now. I got tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll be back with news and weather and lifestyle news. So subscribe, hit the like, hit the follow, hit that bell. And me and William, or William will be back next Wednesday or Monday. I'm sorry, next Monday with his show. And, we're having a lot of fun here and we thank you for your support and all of our new viewers. So, all right, William, that's it. We ready to sign off.
Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Bye bye, folks.